And now, I get to introduce you to Vonie Stillson. Vonie Stillson did a BA in Inter-Arts in Dance Movement Therapy in 2004 and has more than 25 years of experience with individuals with mental illness / intellectual developmental disabilities and more than 10 years of experience as a certified aquatic rehabilitation specialist. She received ADTA's 2014 Outstanding Achievement Award, that's the American Dance Therapy Association. She received this award for her work creating the Southern chapter and is their first president. So, this is Cosplay for Mental Health. Please invite Vonie Stillson to the stage.
Good afternoon. So the other thing that is not listed is I'm also known as Lady Vo, and I am the captain of Airship Iron Opal. Airship Iron, people are like, what is all this stuff? Airship Iron Opal, we're a Northern Colorado-based social steampunk group, and I'll talk about some of that as we're going along. My running joke when people see all the alphabet soup after my name is I do stuff. And we figure out what stuff works to help your stuff, and then we go from there. Some people know what cosplay is. Some people are like, what is this stuff you're talking about? So let me start us off. I've gotten into some interesting study of history and words. It's the contradiction of costume and play, the bringing together of those two words. And it was really interesting. The term was actually coined in 1984. So a lot of people don't realize, wait, cosplay's been known as a name since '84, but it's older than that. And it keeps coming into play. It's where people get to take a character, whether it's a character of your own creation or something that you admire, and you bring it in, and you get to bring it all the way in, not just in what you're wearing in your costume, but also in your movements. Fandoms. Every fandom can have a cosplay. So people are like, what's a fandom? So I'm going to pull from some of the people I've been really blessed to some of the other speakers today brought up. In the world of Tolkien, people who love Tolkien, that's a fandom. People who love WoW, World of Warcraft, that's a fandom. People who love X-Men, people who love just the Marvel Universe in general. All of these things are fandoms. Doctor Who's or Whovians, Once Upon a Time, Oncers, all of those things come into play. That's a fandom. And cosplay is a way to bring that fandom to life, coming into real reality versus virtual reality. Again, I'm totally stealing some stuff from you. So again, like I said, it's older than you think. This lovely couple right here is from 1939. Let me say that again. 1939. People were cosplaying. This is Forrest J. Ackerman and his friend Myrtle Douglas. Myrtle Douglas actually designed and created his costume. They were the first cosplayers when they attended the World Science Fiction Convention. And the costumes that they're wearing are for original characters and ideas that they had. That's one of the other really fun pieces of cosplay is it's not just what's already out there. It's the ideas that you create. Carl Jung. This is where the mental health piece comes in, like, cosplay, mental health, what? To me, it all comes back to Jung, and I think it's so interesting because Jung himself became an outcast in the psychology community. Some people know this story if you've studied psychology. If you haven't, let me give you a little bit. So Freud, everyone knows Freud was the father of psychology. Freud liked other people right up until they disagreed with them. Once you disagreed with Freud, you were out of luck. And that's kind of what happened to Jung. He was considered an outcast in the psychology community because once he disagreed with Freud, out the door he was sent. It's really interesting because even Freud in and of himself and his theories come into play into different fandoms and cultures where you talk about this is what this is going on and this is this piece of it and this is this piece of it. And you get into universal consciousness and the archetypes and hero's journey, and we're going to talk about some of this stuff as we keep going. And it's so interesting. So you have the piece of Jung himself, and then you get to bring in his theories. These are all the pieces and parts that came together. But what's really cool that I think resonates so much with Jung, with cosplayers and fandoms, is a lot of us, and I very proudly say us, in the cosplay community and in the geek community, have spent a period of time where we were outside on the edges, where we thought, I'm the only one. You know, where you feel like you're all alone and you're not connected. And Young's been there. It makes sense. Hey, this is someone who did this too. And why do I have, you know, I don't have to reinvent the wheel. I can learn from someone who was before me who made this journey. It's also been argued that all fandoms are just manifestations of a hero's journey and the different archetypes that you meet along the way. Because, you know, put a lot of thought into this. All of those fandoms I just listed before, you definitely have, you know, your protagonists and your antagonists, and then you have all the different people they meet along the way. Sometimes it's some of the same archetypes show up time and again, and other times not so much. But I think that's part of why they keep connecting with us over and over again, is there's something about us that storyline grabs us, and it pulls us into it, and it keeps us hooked. And then we realize it's 3 o'clock in the morning and we've watched 12 episodes of one show. And we have to be at work at 7 a.m. So that's also one of the balancing pieces we have to play too. And again, it also is very interesting when you start looking at archetypes. I'm going to read this part because I've said it better there than I can say it off the cuff. The idea of the archetypes in the hero's journey relate to how a fan chooses a favorite character or fandom based on where in his or her own journey they are. This can lead to intense debates in fandoms about which are considered to be the shadow of fandom or which are not. Some people consider an entire fandom to be an aspect of the shadow. Some people consider aspects or characters within a fandom. For those of you who don't know, the shadow is the aspects of ourselves that we keep hidden away, the parts that we don't want everyone to see, the parts that we feel, I have to keep this over here, and this is the pretty shiny, I'll show everybody else, and we'll go through life like this. It doesn't work, your back tweaks, you fall over, and it's not hurt. It's hurt and it's not fun. So the whole point of this is, bring this up here, be all of who you are. Whether, you know, bringing in this cosplay and your culture and your fandom, those pieces, it's an aspect and a way of bringing your shadow to life. You know, and I say we time and again because this was a part of my journey. You know, I graduated Naropa in 2004. I graduated high school in Laurel, Mississippi in 2001. Try growing up a goth kid in Laurel, Mississippi. You know, and that was also some of the pieces and battles was, you know, this is who I am, is all of these pieces and parts, and no, that doesn't mean that I can't do these other really cool things too, and bringing those parts of myself together. One of the coolest things that I ever had someone say to me was when I was in my graduate program, one of my professors said to me, you know, Vonie, why are you keeping that separate? Why are you choosing not to show up with all of yourself in the work that you're doing with others? Little did I know that was going to lead me to standing here in a corset. It's also interesting when we get into all of this, the whole struggles that we have with that one-sided pull. You know, it's one of the oldest examples of this. And I got so excited when I found it. Carl Jung himself referred to Louis Stevenson's Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. You know, which, honestly, Robert Louis Stevenson in and of himself is also a fandom. But, you know, I got so excited because this was the whole point that I was trying to bring up and talking about our eternal struggle with trying to balance all of the parts of ourselves. And Jung referenced it. So, to me, that also brings, hey, look, if Jung, one of the founders of the field of psychology, can refer to fandoms in science fiction, we're not that crazy and weird after all. It was a validity. Trudy Shoup, those of you who are in dance therapy, hopefully you know this name. A lot of those of us who aren't in that are like, who the heck is this woman she's talking about? Trudy Shoup, check her out. She was an amazing pioneer of dance therapy, but she talks about disconnection. All individuals encompass the complete range of every feeling, action and thought. But due to societal taboos, one side of the individual must go undercover. These things show up in our body, our postures. It's hard to do it here, but it doesn't bend so well with this. It shows up in our posture, shows up in the way that we stand in front of each other. It shows up in our eye contact with those around us because of that one-sidedness that we developed. And earlier I did like kind of the exaggerated version of it, but it shows up. And the idea of cosplay is we're giving a place for all of it to show up. So bringing up the idea of fandoms as shadow. Anybody know who this guy is? It's Jason Voorhees. This is not Jason from the movies. This is Drowned Boy Cosplay, also known as Douglas Little, my nephew, who, when I'm standing next to him, is about this tall. And I asked Doug, I said, Doug, what, because I'm working on some projects. I said, Doug, what do you want mental health professionals to know about cosplay? This was his answer, out of the mouths of babes, so to speak. It provides the opportunity to be the whole self. In general, it gives people a creative voice they may have never had. Doug also lives in Laurel, Mississippi, currently. Horror cosplay in particular is a unique voice that is mainly seen in a negative or scary light. Most people, you see this guy walking in Walmart, this is not a guy people think, oh, I want to go talk to this dude. But because people are freaked out by it. But you have to find ways to, as a performer, to give back to the public and the community, particularly through store appearances. Recently, there's a new Friday the 13th video game that came out. Our local GameStop back home called Doug and said, hey, will you come and put in an appearance for us to do this? And through appearances with zoos, so a lot of zoos will do like zoo boos and that kind of thing, you'll see some of the horror cosplayers come out then. It gives them a chance, hey, yes, this is my fandom, this is what I connect with. That doesn't make me a bad guy. So it's still a place to show up and be all of who you are. There's so much that comes into play. One of the cool things about it is as I started naming some of the different fandoms out there, I saw different people perk up and smile. Fandom doesn't care how tall you are, how short you are, who you love, how much money is in your bank account. None of those things don't come into play in fandom. So it's open across the board. It just comes down to which are the things that you're drawn to, which are the things that you connect to, and you get to meet people and connect. This then becomes a chance for active imagination to be in action. Active imagination is the process of your unconscious mind and your conscious mind coming together. So when you give that chance to have a voice for your whole self, all these things you're keeping hidden away. There's been so much work and research done about, well, how do you bring in active imagination? How do you give voice to the parts of yourself that you're keeping back here, whether you're even consciously aware of them or not? That is where this lovely idea of movement and depth, which later became known as authentic movement, came into play. Mary Starks Whitehouse is the dance movement therapy person who put a lot of work into this. And one of the huge pieces with authentic movement is you have a mover and you have a witness. When you are moving, the instructions you're given are not to consciously move, but to be moved. So it's not to make the choice, oh, I'm going to move my arm now. It's to let your body say, okay, I want to move my arm. I want to step. But it's your body making those choices versus your conscious mind. When you do authentic movement, also the biggest piece of it is we're seen. You have a person who is giving you their attention. They're seeing what you're showing, what you're presenting, what you're sharing. And then in authentic movement, something else really cool happens is you get to switch roles. So after I've been given this gift of being seen, I get the gift of witnessing and seeing others. It's what happens with cosplay. When we're cosplaying, we're showing a character. We're being seen. You see Jason Voorhees walking through Walmart, you're going to be like, oh, you saw him. Whereas if you just normally see the big, tall dude walking through Walmart, you're like, okay, big, tall dude walking through Walmart. Has anybody ever heard stories of in a nursing home, little old lady or little old gentleman who literally reaches out and grabs somebody as they walk by? It's because they've tried calling your name. They've tried speaking to you, and they're not seen. They're literally reaching out to say, here I am, see me. Cosplay is people saying, here I am, see me. Cosplay gives people a chance to show those sides of themselves that they're normally not okay with showing and sharing with the world. I was not somebody who would walk outside in a corset 10 years ago. Was not something I felt comfortable with. But as I've continued on my own journey and my own path, you know what? It's okay for me to be like, this is part of me, and seeing all of me. One of the big pieces, sorry, I want to wait on that piece. One of the big pieces that comes into play with cosplay, as I said earlier, it just matters that we like things, that we like these similar things, they bring us together. I talk about my nephew a lot. I'm a very proud aunt. So cosplaying brings in your family of origin, but it also brings in who become your family. Like I said, I'm the captain of Airship Iron Opal. We now have 30 active crew members. So these are 30 people who are my family. Out of those 30 people, 5 of them are actually blood or marriage-related family. And one of the things that's really cool with cosplay in our family is, yes, my nephews cosplay, my children cosplay, my husband cosplays, my mother, who is in her 60s, cosplays, and my mother-in-law also cosplays with us. So we have 3 generations actively cosplaying. You know, we have people who we connected with and we've met through, you know, an example with us for steampunk. I'm also a huge, huge, huge X-Men fan. People who I meet and connect with through those aspects. And you connect and you become friends and you become family. And they're tethers that keep us connected in the here and now. Because when you're isolated and you're doing all this work to be contorted and stuck over here, that takes a lot of effort. And it takes a lot of work, even if we've managed to get kind of back to normal. Sometimes those habits are hard to break, and we realize we start doing this again, and it starts little. But your family says, hey, wait a minute, you're starting to get wonky again. Let's come back. Let's take a moment. Because they see you. So these connections that are created through our costuming, we see you. And it goes deeper, and it continues to grow. What I say to people, you know, as a mental health professional, why do you do this? Why would you not do this? You know, there's been so much research done on the value of play. Cosplay. There's value in play. As adults, we still need to play. As kids, we need to play. We need to play with our kids and bringing all of those pieces together. So anything you're doing that's a creative outlet, that you're creating connection with people, and you're lifting, and the whole idea of it is you're lifting each other up versus dragging each other down. How is that not good for mental health? Couple of connection pieces I want to bring up is there's a Facebook group that I found back when I lived home called Southern Geek. Southern Geek started out as a group of friends who like to go to cons together. Southern Geek now has 3,000 people in their Facebook group, and for the past 2 years has hosted their own Comic-Con. And this whole thing developed out of groups of people who met and liked going to events together, and it continued to grow, and they made stuff happen, and they've done some cool stuff. I put out there onto the group, you know, what do you want mental health professionals to know about cosplay? What do you want other people? And Isabella Thacker put it so beautifully, I can't put it any better. She said to me, cosplay is a chance for me to forget about my little quirks and faults and to be a character that had a quality I wanted to make a part of me. Whether it's strength or humor or boldness, it's a chance for someone a bit more like my true self. All of us are a bit of hero and a bit of villain. Magic and awkward, evil and good. Thank you.